Crash and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I want to discuss Submerged, their initial release ever, I think it's their first full length ever, and this was back in I think 2006, 2007 for Sublight Records. I really miss Sublight Records. I mean, I bought so many records from Sublight in their very, very short lifespan. I think they were only around for roughly 4 years, give or take. I might have covered this in another video. I have this vague recollection of the text coming up mentioning how long Sublight was actually in existence for. But I mean, I bought so many records off there. I bought this, Stars Light the End. I bought the Servants of the Apocalyptic Goat Rave, Ebola's Cannibal Penis Ballet, Acronyms Flowers, of course the Venetian Snares, Winnipeg is a Frozen Shithole, Pink and Green. And there's all the flashbulbs that were released on Sublight. I bought all of those. And then the label just shut down, like out of nowhere. And it sucks because it always kind of reminds me of what happened to Slap-A-Ham with Chris Dodge, how he said that he was a musician and not a businessman, and the records he was releasing, they weren't selling as quickly as he wanted them to, and yet he continued to release records at a breakneck speed, which inevitably shut down Slap-A-Ham. And I think that's probably what happened here too, because it seems like every time I turned around, Sublight was coming out with a new record that I'd scoop up. And given that this stuff isn't necessarily mainstream enough to ever be popular enough in order to sell exponentially well in order to justify this rather hurried release date for every record, like it felt like there were 2 or 3 releases a week at one point. And there's no way that they were going to be able to financially recoup what they were putting out in order to produce and release those records in order to continue to make and release more records. And so I think the inevitable just caught up with them. And that sucks because this record, Submerged, Stars Light the End, this record is a prime example of how strong all of the releases were on Sublight. This is like, in a lot of ways, this is a very, very traditional sounding drum and bass record from the mid-2000s, and yet at the same time, it sort of has that undercurrent of terror at play that reminds me of what Bongra and Sick Boy were doing on the Servants of the Apocalyptic Goat Rave, which was their debut and I believe only release for Sublight Records. And this record kind of harkens back to that. It has an evil sense of production. The drums kick through so loud and they cut through the mix so well. And then you toss in sort of like that terrorizing bass line that so many of these tracks have. And then you toss in that ambience of dread that this record has going. And you have sort of the formula for an absolutely perfect drum and bass record, at least as far as someone like me is concerned. Overall, I really like traditional or more standard sounding drum and bass, but I do like it when drum and bass gets a little heavier and it gets a little more evil, I suppose, where they start to twist and turn their samples and they find samples from weird left field places that don't necessarily fit into the widely accepted arena of mainstream drum and bass. I like how they've twisted a number of saxophone samples throughout the course of this record too. Overall, I don't really like the saxophone, and I know the saxophone plays a major part, in a lot of drum and bass releases, and so I understand that that's most likely why it's here, but I do like how, like I said, they've twisted it and sort of like spun it into, whereas technically you can still tell that it's a saxophone, it sounds like a saxophone dying, and that was really fun. I think my favorite tracks on here are track 4 and 6, which is Frank Booth and Gutter, if memory serves. I absolutely love Frank Booth and Gutter. Actually, that whole midsection of the record, I'd say like 4 through 8, give or take. See, now here's the thing. On the original CD release for this, there are only, I believe, 9 tracks. It ends with the title track, Stars Light the End. Except when you check it out on Bandcamp now, there's, I think, a total of 13 or 14 songs on this release. Now, I have the CD release that I purchased way back when, and I've never even checked out the extra songs on Bandcamp because I feel that it's kind of redundant. I'll just stick with the version that I have. And everything about this was fun. I loved the artwork, the photo collage on the cover. I thought that was great. It gives a real sense of family and community. It sounds like these people know what they're doing and they're always sort of on the move. And I really like that. I like that sense of togetherness the artwork brings. And I absolutely love the music. I think I'll leave it there. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes while I discussed Submerged's debut and pretty much only released for Sublight Record, Stars Lights the End. If you like this review, like always, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.